Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this masterclass on Sunday. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the session. So, we would be starting the session very soon. I'm just waiting for the speakers to join. Meanwhile, just to let you know, that Foreign Admits is a study abroad international platform where any of the students who are aiming to study abroad and doesn't have a proper guidance or understanding about how to apply, where to get the career counseling, where to choose your universities, you can definitely reach out to us. We have 500 plus top university mentors. These are all international graduates and alumni who are waiting to help you, who would love to help you. We have helped till date more than 3,000 students to go abroad at top universities. This year, most of our students have gotten some kind of scholarships, and few of our students have gotten full funding also. So, having said that, we have launched a $1 million scholarship campaign, which the link of which I will share during the session. So, stay tuned. We're going to announce about what $1 million scholarship is at the end of the session. And the registered students for this webinar will get a direct exclusive access to that scholarship campaign. Okay. So, yep, Soundarya is here. Welcome, Soundarya, to the session.
Hi, thank you so much. Sorry I'm a little late. Thank you for waiting.
So yeah, just starting the session now. Okay. Yeah.
Great. Can you see me?
Yep. Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Um, so we can wait for maybe another 2 minutes.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Join in and then start. Okay. Can you give me the right permission to present as well?
Yep. I think you are the co-host. Let me check.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I can share my screen.
Sure.
So can I get the SOP if so? Should I review the SOP that someone has sent in on the call?
Yep. You can. I am just getting the URLs.
Okay. Great.
I think Saurav is managing the SOP collections.
Okay. Great.
Okay. So yeah, I think we'll start off in next 30 seconds. Just before that, for everyone who is planning to study abroad, we have launched a $1 million scholarship campaign. Just repeating it out now. We'll definitely share the details during the session and probably at the end of it again. Uh, but yeah, this particular masterclass is going to be invite only, and that's why we want to focus on most of the students who are currently going abroad and definitely need, help in writing their SOPs. So today we have someone very special who has been a book author for higher education aspirants, also worked in some of the top companies like Salesforce, done her MS from Columbia University. So yeah, the session is going to be really exciting, engaging. Feel free to ask as many questions as possible because some things are very limited. So I hope the session can add more value to you in this quick amount of time. And yes, any questions that you have for higher education, probably we would try and see if we can answer most of them. So that's something we'll try and get this. Okay, just a second. So yeah, so let's start the session. So again, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday masterclass on how to write your SOP. SOP stands for Statement of Purpose, which is predominantly needed when you're applying for any of the international university abroad or in India, where they might want to understand your intent of application. A statement of purpose is a very important document in your application process. I would not do a deep dive. I'll probably take the speaker, give the speaker the ownership to explain about what SOP is all about, how can it create an impact, and what and all things you can do in your SOP. Just before that, just want to let you guys know that applications are currently online as of now, and most of the universities are accepting the application. So if you are planning to apply, you can try by yourself or you can get help of our methods. But yeah, introducing our current speaker, Soundarya Balasubramani. So Soundarya is a Masters of Science in Columbia University graduate. She's also the product manager at Salesforce, a gold medalist student, and author of a very, very special book. And I would definitely want to share with you. This is the book. I even have it. I would definitely vouch for reading this. I'm already in the middle of it, and it's really, really exciting. So this book is potentially one of the great, learning if you are a study abroad aspirant or just wanted to understand what it feels like studying abroad. How does the process looks like? It's more of the encapsulation of, I believe, a lot of other international students also. So you would have entire journey experience, and it's really thrill and fun to read this book. So trust me, probably grab a cup of coffee or tea and start reading it this another weekend, and you would be all throughout the process. So handing over to Soundarya. Soundarya, please take the lead.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks so much, Nika. It means a lot that you got the book, even though you don't actually need the book, but I appreciate you getting the book. And I have a question for you. Can those participants right now turn on their video? Is that possible for them to do?
Yep, they can.
Okay, great. So, for those who are currently watching and listening, if you're comfortable doing that, I would love to see your faces because that is, I mean, I know I cannot, I wish I was in the same room as you, looking at your faces and your body language, but I cannot do that. At the very least, I would love to at least see your faces virtually. No pressure though, you don't have to do it. But if you're up for it, then yep, I see some people are showing their faces already. Thank you so much. Because let's just try to make this as human and connected as possible. As Nikhil said, anytime you have a question, I feel like Zoom has enough features for you to ask that question. Either put it in the chat box, or there is maybe a Q&A section somewhere.
No, as of now, we have the chat system, so you can probably put it in the chat, and we'll take in all the questions.
Perfect. So put it in the chat, and I'll keep looking at it occasionally every maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Just
Uh,
before you start, probably we'll do a poll with all the participants here just to understand where they are in their journey. So I'm starting the poll for all of you guys to poll your interest, and that's how our session is also going to get aligned with your interest. So, yep, the poll is already started. And yeah, I think this is the first time all the participants are allowed to, put on the video. So definitely make use of it, and we'll have more, interactive session with all of you guys. Let's keep it for 30 seconds. Quickly, quickly, guys, we got to get into the session and it's going to be really engaging. So, yeah, complete your polls.
let's see. So, are you struggling with writing your SOP? So predominantly, people are saying yes.
Yeah,
When are you planning for your masters? Oh wow, I see a mix of one third is fall, and pretty much everyone else is saying, or like 15% spring, and everyone else is saying later on. So beyond fall 21. Great.
I see
Um,
some bachelor students also, which is interesting.
some bachelors, as
Yep.
a spring 22, you mean, or
Yeah, I think people who are in high school and probably looking for bachelors,
oh
17%
wow.
are going for bachelors in
That's
this.
so amazing. When I was in high school, I really was not thinking about studying abroad. And anyone who's in high school right now on the call, kudos to you on thinking about it.
Absolutely. So we're gonna end the poll any moment, probably now. Okay. So yeah, let's start the session.
Yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to close the poll. And the presentation really is just, you know, The presentation is just acting as a support system. So it's not going to be one of those things where you just have to keep looking at the screen to understand what I'm saying. I just put down some light content on it, so you don't have to keep looking at the screen. Let me know if you can see this, Nikhil.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm going to kick it off with saying thank you to Nikhil and Foreign Admits for doing this. I had a call with Nikhil about a few weeks ago, and I think we almost ended up speaking for 1 hour. And it was really inspiring to hear how he started Foreign Admits in the first place. And I'm just so happy to be here with all of you. So thank you for spending your Sunday morning with me. I know you all had to wake up quite early for this, or maybe not that early because it's 11 a.m. there right now. But regardless, I'm really thankful that you allowed to give me 1 hour of your time. So, who am I? Nikhil already spoke about this, so I won't spend too much time. I'm currently an associate product manager at Salesforce, which is a tech company in the US. And before this, I was doing my master's in management science and engineering at Columbia. And before that, my bachelor's in chemical engineering at NIT Trichy. Uh, just to go into some more detail, these are some of the things that I love doing. I love reading books. I have recently picked up biking. I love playing badminton. Also, although it's been a while since I did that. And I'm also a shower singer. So I sing a lot, but it's only in the confinement of my restroom, not beyond that. But I hope to take it outside one day. Before I begin talking about writing your SOP, which I know is it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, and I know this because about 4 years ago I was in your shoes, and I would spend evenings just sitting and staring at my screen, not knowing what to write. So I understand the struggle that you're going through, and I will try my best to share with you the things that I've learned. Um, but at the end of the day, just realize that you will never be able to reach the ideal state because there is no ideal state when it comes to an essay. There is only revisions after revisions after revisions, and eventually you have to reach a point where you should just call it quits and move on to the next step of your application process. But before getting into that, I want to talk about um, oh, sorry, I just had the slide on my book. But as Nikhil said, I recently launched a book called Admitted, which is kind of think of it as an all-in-one book for everything you need to get your dream admit and also prepare to study abroad. Because what I realized was there were books and guides out there which tell you how to write your SOP or how to create a resume or where to get scholarships. But it was all pretty fragmented and in different places. It was not in one place. So my team and we spent almost 8 months writing and designing the book. So I don't know if you can see this, but I have the book in my hand right now. And if you can see this, it's
Mm.
pretty colorful as well, in the sense that we have a lot of
I can
design
show it.
illustrations throughout the book. So I
Yeah.
work, oh yeah, right there. So we have a lot of these illustrations, and I work with a graphic designer to get those in. And so it won't be a boring black and white guide. I can guarantee that much. And if any of you are thinking about planning for fall 21 or even for beyond fall 21, I would say just go and check out the Amazon page, see if the book makes sense to where you're at right now, and then make a decision. Right. So, even before talking about the SOP, I feel like this is a very important question. In fact, I spent an entire chapter in my book talking about this question of should you even study abroad in the first place? And I'm not trying to discourage you from doing that, but I just want you to get the full picture of when you're planning to study abroad, what are you getting yourself into? And these are things that most people don't openly talk about. So I thought I'd spend a few minutes talking about that. So whenever I think about this question, I always start with the story of how I spent the first day in New York and in the US. This was back in August 14th of 2017. And I had just landed at the JFK airport, which is one of the three biggest airports in New York. And this was around 9 a.m., I think. Somehow, on the way, en route, I I got sick. And so when I landed, I was sick and I just wanted to get home and sleep because I had been on the flight for the last 25 or 30 hours. So it was extremely tiring and I was sick and I was exhausted. So I took a cab go to my home, which I was going to for the first time. And as I entered, two of my roommates were there. So they were just planning to go out and spend the entire day in the city, roaming and visiting different places. So they asked me, "Do you want to come along?" Um, like an idiot, I said, "Sure, I'll come along with you." So I should have stayed home and taken rest in hindsight, but I didn't want to say no. I guess there was also a component of peer pressure at that point because you're meeting someone for the first time and you want to say yes for anything that they say. So I said yes, ate quickly, and then I went with them to spend the entire day outside in the city, roaming and visiting different places. Except what I didn't know was they were also meeting a group of bigger set of friends who, again, I had never met any of these people in my life before. We had spoken on WhatsApp extensively, but speaking on WhatsApp and meeting in person is not the same thing. So I met a group of almost 12 people, and I'm an introvert. So spending an entire day with people that I'd never met before in a new country on my first day when I was exhausted and sick, it was just so much that after spending about 10 or 11 hours with them, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I told them that you guys go on and continue without me. I am going to go back home. So this was around 10 p.m. I took the subway by myself. So the subway is like the metro in India. It's an underground metro. So I took the New York subway, but I ended up at the wrong destination. Even on a good day, I'm not very good with directions. So when I was extremely tired and exhausted, ended up going to this location, which is at least a few kilometers away from where I live. And so when I got out, I had no idea where I was. My phone was dead. It was very cold. And I just remember feeling so scared because the location that I was in was known to be very unsafe. And it was known to be a place where you can easily get kidnapped or mugged. And so that's all I heard about the location. And so I didn't cry yet. I just told myself to somehow get home and then let all the frustration out. So I began running in the direction of where I thought my home would be. I got home finally at 12 a.m. or a little past 12 a.m. And I just remember this is something that I never forgot just because of how unique the day was. I remember spending the next 2 hours just crying and uncontrollably crying because it's just, it's not, there were so many different things that happened in such a short span of 24 hours that I couldn't take it anymore. And I just kept thinking why I came to this new country and why I could not have just stayed back in India with my family and friends, people that I knew, people that I loved. And so it was definitely, and it still is one of the worst days that I spent in the US. Just because of the fact that so many different things happened on my first day. So the point of the story is that studying in a new country will have its fair share of challenges for you. It will push you out of your comfort zone. It will make you wish that you were back in your home country with your parents and friends and your family. And I just want to say that that's okay and that's very normal. Um, but at the same time, it's not a decision that you should take very lightly, and it's definitely not a decision that you should let someone else take for you because first of all there is the cost of studying abroad. A lot of you might want to pursue education to earn money later on, which I understand, but if you look at the cost of what it takes to pursue higher education, on average the tuition fee ranges from $30,000 to all the way up to $100,000. So $100,000 is about 75 lakhs. It could be even more if you go for an MBA. And even if you take an average of, say, $50,000, which is about 37 lakhs, adding to that, you have the cost for housing, healthcare, food, books, travel, any other activities. And so, on the whole, there is a good chance that it will come up to 50 lakhs for the entire 2 years for you. So that's a significant financial investment. And most people don't have that kind of money by themselves. They generally take a loan. I also took a loan myself. So that's the first thing to think about. Secondly, um, getting here is one thing. Getting a job is a completely different uphill climb that you have to do once you get here. So, till date, one of the hardest things that I've had to do was get an internship in the US. Unlike India, there's no placement committee or placement cell that will get you the interview for you. You have to take the initiative to get the interview yourself and prepare for it and ace the interview. So basically, you're the one looking out for yourself when you go to a new country to study abroad there. And finally, after all this, there is the issue of getting the visa. Because as you know, H1B is not a visa that anyone can get, it is based on lottery. So there is this element of luck involved in getting the visa in the first place, even after you get a job. So please know that I'm not saying all this to scare you. I'm just saying this to prepare you because, as I said before, going to a new country, you're not just going to be studying there. Your entire life is going to change. You're going to be surrounded by people that you've never met before, people from different countries, people who have spent the last 20 years in a very different environment than you. So all this means that you will be put in some extremely uncomfortable situations, and you should just be prepared for that. Even if I'd known that I'd have a very bad day, I can never be prepared for what exactly happened that day. But at least I know that now, if I have a similar day, I know it's possible to overcome that and move on to the next day. So that's why I'm saying all this. And finally, make the decision to do it yourself and not because your parents think it's the next step for you, or because your friends do, or because your cousins or relatives do. You should take all the factors of what it means to go to a new country and decide for yourself. Um, and if you do end up coming here or going to a different country, I'm thrilled for you because I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, think that everyone should have the experience of going to a new country to study there. So I just hope that you're all prepared to do that. So right now, with that, I'm going to go and hop over talking about the SOP. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put that in the chat box. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what this green thing is. Okay, great. So I know you all want to know what it takes to write a stellar SOP. So first of all, talking about how important the statement of purpose is. I remember spending many, many evenings at my undergrad university's cafe coffee day, struggling to come up with at least a few hundred words for an essay prompt. Specifically, I remember this one evening where I was sitting there for almost 4 hours trying to write 500 words for Stanford, and I think I ended up writing a few hundred words. But the next day, I had to completely rewrite it because I was not happy with it. So I wrote over 7 drafts of my SOP, and I took input from my brother, a few of my friends, half a dozen seniors, and it was the component that took most of my time out of everything else in my application. However, to this day, I don't know how much it helped me or how much it did not help me in getting my admits. I got admits from Columbia, Cornell, and Dartmouth in the US for management science and engineering program. But the admission committee really is a black box. You have no idea what goes on in their mind when they're evaluating your application. And that's how it's supposed to be, because if you know, then students would start manipulating their application to suit their needs. Um, so the truth is, no one outside the small circle of admissions committee really knows what they look for or what made them choose you. But what I can tell you is that the importance of this essay is definitely overstated in the sense that um, everyone keeps saying that the SOP is so important that you go to a point where you feel so overwhelmed even writing the first draft, and it becomes very counterproductive for yourself. So, at least for the next 15, 20 minutes, I just want you to forget anything you've heard from your seniors or friends about how important the SOP is or how difficult it is to write it, and just focus on the 5 questions that need to be answered in this essay. So, I'll take you through the 5 questions, but just clear your mind and relax for the next 20 minutes. Okay, great. Wait, is someone else drawing these things? Because I'm not doing it, I think. Is
Mm,
there a feature on Zoom that lets you draw things on the screen?
I think so. I think uh, someone needs to stop it. I'll take control of that. Don't worry.
Okay, it's fine. No problem. Awesome. So, as I said, I will go through the 5 questions that I think you need to answer. And I wrote this down after a lot of thought. As you know, my book Admitted has a chapter on how to write your SOP. So I have gone into these in depth in the chapter, but for now, I'll just talk about the high level items of what needs to be answered. So, first is why this major in university? I mean, here are 2 things to avoid even before I begin. When you're answering this question, first, please do not assume that it is obvious to the admissions committee that you're pursuing a degree in computer science because your undergrad was in computer science. In the sense that you should still give them a good justification as to why you're applying for that specific major, for that specific specialization. And you shouldn't overlook that question because even if you're applying for a master's in computer science, it isn't obvious to them that you are doing that because you had a bachelor's in computer science. You still have to explain how all of your experiences in the past and your interest and your future goals are all connected to this specific major that you're applying to. Secondly, this is something that a lot of students do, including myself. I also did this, so I'm at fault as well. Don't search for the most recently published paper on the department's website and include that as the reason you're applying and picking that university. And Nikhil can also agree with me that this is something that students do a lot because it's so easy to do this, right? All you have to do is go to the department, see the latest paper published, and say that I read this paper and it was fascinating and I found this very interesting. So I'm applying for your university and this department. So please do not do that. They want to understand what made you choose their department in that university so they can kind of measure your interest and potentially match you with a supervisor as well. This is not true for management degrees because in my degree I didn't really have a supervisor since I was not conducting research. But majority of students do pursue a degree in research, such as a master's in chemical engineering or a master's in physics. So when you're doing that, they will also look for potential match between your interest and your background, as well as a professor currently doing that, conducting research on those topics in the university. So it's completely okay if you pursue a degree in a different major. I switched from chemical engineering to master's in management. So I don't think you can do something that's farther off from that. Um, as long as you give them good justification as to why you're doing that and how making this transition helps you with your longer term goals, it's definitely possible to get the admit because I was able to do it. So if I can do it, I'm sure that you can also do it if you have a good reason. Except if you do want to do a transition from, say, electrical engineering to computer science or electrical to mechanical, you should have a good reason and a good backup story as to why you're doing that. So this question is trying to assess your interest in the university, your interest in the major, why you picked that major, and also, you know, also they're using this question to understand can they match you with an existing supervisor. That's what's going on in their mind when they look at the your response to this question. The second question that I think is crucial to be answered is what is your plan for the next few years? Because let's face it, graduate school is not easy, for all the reasons I mentioned before. H1B, visas, the cost, all of that, all of that is what makes studying abroad difficult. But at the end of the day, your day-to-day life would be so busy and you would have so many different things that you have to do in 24 hours that you just have to understand that it's going to take a toll on you. You are putting yourself through financial debt, a cultural transformation, probably more than 12 hours a day of work, and possibly developing an imposter syndrome. So you're doing all this in the hope that getting a job will pay off for all your hard work, and getting good experience will pay off for all your hard work. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that's motivating you to do all this? Because if you don't feel passionate about something, I feel like pretty soon you will be burnt out and you will start to buckle under pressure. So just keep asking yourself that, what are the questions that I'm trying to answer in life? um, even not even in life, think about what questions are you trying to answer in your area of interest. I'm sure you feel passionate about what you're doing right now. All of you must have something that really makes your blood boil. So think about what questions you want to answer over the next 2 years at this university, conducting research or taking courses. And this is especially very, very, very important if you're pursuing a PhD as opposed to a master's. Because for a PhD, it's not just 2 years; it's probably 5 years or more. Um, so unless the university sees a fit between what interests you and what they can offer, they will not be motivated to pick you. So think through the question of um, the questions you want to answer over the next few years. Okay, I hope you're following along so far. The third question is, how does your past experience, how has your past experience prepared you for pursuing a degree at this university? So think of the first three questions as like um, the three holy circles forming a Venn diagram. If you showing interest in a major in university and saying that you want to do this over the next few years, it wouldn't carry any weight if you don't have the right experience in the past. Your answer to the two previous questions should be well connected to the third question, which is, expressing your interest in a topic that is being worked on at the university would not really help you if you don't have at least some relevant experience in there already. Because a best-selling author does not start as a best-selling author. She spends years researching, reading, writing, and rewriting before getting there. So talk about all the great things that you've done so far, along with showing some tangible results in the form of, say, a paper or a publication or getting scholarships, winning competitions. Even if they aren't, even if they are not directly relevant to the degree itself, it still shows that you were able to do something from start to finish. Um, Especially if you, let's say, you went to a hackathon and you won the hackathon, that really shows that you have what it takes to sit through 2 nights or 2 days and work on this one idea. So this is a very, very important question. So especially if you're, in my case, I was switching from chemical engineering to management. So I had to specifically pick the experiences from my past, which had some correlation to working in teams or working on topics under the domain of management and operations research. And so I really had to be very selective of what I spoke about. At the same time, I also spoke about all the papers I published in the area of chemical engineering because I wanted to still show them that even though I worked on this other domain for a few years, I still invested time and I worked hard to get these papers because writing a paper is not a very easy task. Um, so try to balance this with things that are relevant as well as things that might not be relevant but still show that you have what it takes to be a hard worker. Right. Um, I actually like to think this is a fun question to answer because you don't get to explain why you did the things you did anywhere else in your application. Because if you think about it, your transcripts, your GRE scores, TOEFL scores, your GPA, your resume, all of these things just talk about the results. They only talk about what what the outcome was. None of them give you a chance to explain how you got to those outcomes. And that's why the essay is a great place to talk about that, because answer this question, the answer to this question of why you did the things you did gives them more perspective into you as a person, because until then, to them, you're really just a set of numbers and outcomes. And the SOP is where you can really humanize your entire profile and talk about why you picked a specific professor to work under for a summer, or talk about why your GPA dropped in semester 6. Because if it did drop, you can justify that. If you have a good reason, if you think your reason is a valid one, then absolutely mention that. You could talk about why you specifically chose a company to work at, and why you chose to switch from research to management. Because in fact, in my SOP, I spent one passage just explaining to them why I chose to move away from research and get into management. So use this question, use the SOP to talk about the why behind the decisions you took over the past few years. And finally, the fifth question is, what will be your future contribution to society? All of you have, I would think, some really ambitious goals that you want to achieve in life. Maybe you want to send a spaceship to Mars. Maybe you want to cure cancer or build a startup that connects our brain to a machine. And if you've got some really crazy, ambitious moonshot goals, absolutely tell them that. Along with your goals, talk about how this degree at this university is going to help you get there, because they want to hear that they're the best step that you can take to eventually reach your goal. Your career is not going to end at this university. The university is really just a bridge to get you from where you're currently at to where you eventually want to be. So it's all a means to an end. And so really think about, if you have any big goals in life, definitely mention that. If you don't have any big goals, that's okay as well. You don't have to always have grand goals. Certain people, even in my case, I didn't really have a grand goal when I applied to Columbia, except I just told them that this feels like the next best step for me because of all of these past experiences. And I realized that this is what I love doing, or this is what I've loved doing in the past. And so that's why Columbia makes sense to me at this point. um, so it's okay if you don't have any grand goals, but if you do have one, then definitely mention that, because universities love to listen to students who cannot shut up about something. um, so these are the 5 questions that I feel are crucial to be answered in your essay. In Again, you don't have to follow any standard format to answer these. First, answer these questions separately, and then try to see how you can make them into a coherent essay where it flows easily from one passage to the next. And finally, this is a lot harder to explain than any of the previous questions, just because we are all so unique that bringing that out in an essay is not an easy task. Just remember that the people who read your essay, they have years of experience reading essays like yours, thousands of essays. So they know when they're listening to a student talk about a topic that they have little knowledge on. They know if you're faking an illness to justify a bad outcome. I cannot stress the importance of being honest and sincere when you're writing your SOP. So those are the main questions that you need to answer in your essay. If you're, as I said, if you're looking for a deeper dive, I actually published the chapter on writing your SOP from my book for free for everyone. So I did this for 2 reasons. First is I just wanted to help all of you, because this I know is a very important part of your application. And also I wanted to show you a sneak peek into how the book is like. So if you want to just check the chapter for free, you can click on or go to this link. It's go to.admiratethebook.com/SOP. So if you go there, you will get access to a Google form which you can fill. And as soon as you hit submit on the Google form, you will get an email with a link to the SOP chapter. And the best part is, you will get 2 sample SOPs that I got from my friends who went to Stanford and Cornell. So they are both extremely well written SOPs, and use that as inspiration as you start writing yours. There is one, I forgot this slide that I wanted to talk to you about. Just very briefly, I just wanted to show this slide because this is a one of my favorite quotes. It was written by someone named Anton Chekhov, or I think I'm butchering his name, but he's a philosopher, and he wrote this one quote which says a lot. He said that, "Don't tell me the moon is shining. Rather, show me the glint of light on the broken glass." So, what he tried to convey through this was that he wanted writers to not just he wanted writers to not just tell something, but show it through the writing. So, don't tell them that you're a hard worker. Rather, show them that you're a hard worker by saying that you spend, say, every hour of the past few months working on something specific. So, as much as possible, try to make them feel what you felt when you were doing something, through words. And I know that's not easy. It's not something that many people can just do naturally. And that's why you take help from people who can do this and ask them to give their feedback on this. Finally, as I kind of close this session, I just wanted to show you a few pictures from my time as a grad student. Because I know I told you a lot of scary things at the beginning of the seminar, but at the same time, I wanted to let you know that as challenging as it can be to study abroad, it is equally satisfying and it's as rewarding. At least in my case, I learned more in the last 3 years that I've been in the US than in the first 21 years that I was in India. Absolutely, I can say that. Just the diversity of people that I've met here, the kind of education that I got, the experiences that I had, all the firsts that I had. The first time that I saw snow, you can see this picture here. The first time that I went ice skating, I broke my ankle, but I had such a fun time doing that. And the first time that I went on a boat cruise, just there was so many firsts that I had when I came here. I became a lot more confident, a lot more fearless, hardworking, and more perseverant. So it was a difficult journey, but it was definitely an equally rewarding one. And I sincerely hope all of you get to begin your journey very soon. And just to close this off, this is kind of an inside look into how the book looks like. In fact, you can go and get the SOP chapter for free. And when you download it, you would see that it looks exactly like this. And I'm just showing this to you because, as I said, it's a very colorful book. It's not like any other book you might have read before. So I really hope you get a chance to, or you take time to read the chapter and potentially purchase the book as well. Great. So with that, let me stop sharing, and I'm going to hand it over back to you, Nikhil.
I think I was on a ride to a journey, it just felt me so real that, as if I was there, living all these experiences which you had.
Thank you so much.
Certainly, study abroad is perceived to be a little difficult, challenging, or scary experiences, but with time as you go, you become a better version. For people who are looking to grab the SOP chapter, we have shared the link in the chat. You can probably go there and grab the book or the chapter, whichever you like. I'm personally enjoying it, honestly, and it's something really, you feel like reading, someone's journey, and you kind of still get to learn a lot of things in that phase. So, yeah, we have certain questions here. As we promised everyone that we're gonna do live reviews of your profile, and we would see what you can highlight in your SOPs, and probably would help you with a little bit of pointers about your writing in SOP. So we have already one entry coming up by Purnima Ananthasubramaniam.
Okay.
So if you can see in the chat, she's a final year undergrad student looking to apply for biology graduate course, MS or PhD. and having a hard time try to fit her SOP in 500 words. I know we are usually a long writers, and as required by some college, I was wondering if I can get some kind of feedback on how to write, probably in 500 words.
Okay. So do I have any SOPs that I can review on the call?
I'm not sure we didn't get proper SOPs, as I feel that it's
Okay.
still a bigger problem for people to write it.
Right. So maybe you can just tell on the call that if any of you have written, say, a first draft of your SOP, then now is a great time to share
Yeah,
that with us. So upload it on Google Drive and share the link on the chat right now. Because if you do that, then I can go over it right now and give you some real time feedback on that.
absolutely. So, I think this is a separate question that has been asked. How difficult is it to get scholarships? Uh,
Yeah, let me go through the questions from the beginning. So the first question I see is Rucha is asking if you have done something in your academic curricular, can you add that in your SOP? I'm not sure what exactly the question means. If you have done something in your academic curricular, Richa, do you mind elaborating more on that question? Because I'm not clear what you mean by academic curricular. Do you mean courses or something else? Feel free to elaborate on that. Vanchika is asking, should you only talk about ambitions that do align much? If I'm applying for MS in applied mathematics, is it overstating to write that I wish to start my own business sometime? I personally think that that's absolutely not. As I said before, the university is really just a bridge for you to eventually get to your bigger goal in life, and they know that your life is not going to end at the university. So if you can provide a link between how studying applied math at, say, Cornell University will help you with eventually beginning your own business on a specific domain and sector, I think it's wonderful. I think it'll actually impress them, the fact that you're thinking ahead, 10 years ahead. And I would encourage you to mention that for sure. Himanshu is asking, how difficult is it to get scholarships? I know it's a very important question, except there is no yes or no answer, unfortunately. Like all good questions, the answer is it depends on your profile and it depends on your profile and how much you're willing to put time into applying to a scholarship. So I'll give you my take. I spent more than 50 hours applying to scholarships back when I was applying in uh, like January or February of 2017. And I did that because I really wanted to get at least one or two scholarships to fund myself and start earning even before I began to study. And so I was very determined. And so I spent all those time just going through every single link on Google search, all the way up to, say, page 5 or page 6, and creating a list of all scholarships, beginning to apply to all of them, following up, and all that. And eventually, it all paid off. At least in my case, I was fortunate to get two scholarships, JN Tata and KC Mahindra, which ended up covering 25% of my tuition fee. So it was definitely worth it in my case. And in terms of difficulty, it's extremely hard for me to assess that. I will say that many scholarships do look for someone who has a good academic standing in terms of GPA, internships, any other scores that you have. So in my case, I had a good academic standing, which really helped in my case. But at the same time, there are scholarships which don't really judge you based on just your GPA. But you would have to go and search for that yourself first. And this is just something that I wanted to FYI. We spent almost 12 hours searching for scholarships, and we created a list of 30 scholarships. So when you purchase the book, you will get access to a Google Drive, which will have a list of statement of purposes. It'll have a list of resumes. It'll have a list of 30 scholarships that you can apply to, and more resources on how to get your loan and visa and so on. So that's something you can think about. That's one more perk you get from purchasing the book.
Absolutely.
Just
I think adding to scholarship, I could add few pointers being a full funded PhD student. Yes, your GPA is a good point, but as I said, it's not the only point. I had like 7.4 GPA in India, which is considered to be really average GPA. If you're writing publications, if you're doing projects, if you have a very good letters of recommendation, and definitely SOP also matters for to showcase what kind of clarity do you have for your career. So if you have all of those things in picture, properly placed, you would get probably some good scholarship. There is a mean scholarship also that you should look at. A lot of students come from struggling or humble financial background. I came from one of those, so definitely many universities have the mean scholarship apart from just the merit scholarship. So before that, I would definitely share about scholarships. As I rightly promised, we have compiled a list of 6,000 plus scholarships, thanks to our developers team. And we have also written multiple blogs explaining many of those scholarships. And as I told you, foreign admits have announced formally a USD $1 million cumulative scholarships for a lot of students who are going abroad. No gimmicks, it's absolutely cracked with universities, and you can apply. Few of our students have already gotten full funding from the universities and from us also. So that's something we have pulled up with a lot of efforts. So I'm going to share all the links right now in the chat, and then we can proceed in the session.
that is incredible. Did you say 6,000 scholarships?
Yep.
Amazing. And is this for anyone to just search?
Yeah, it's going to be like undergrad, bachelor's, master's, PhD. You just put a filter. There's a month wise also. Next month, what scholarships are there? The next to next month. And we are on track to add probably 34,000 more. So it's going to be 40,000 scholarships, all hand curated. And probably 3 years of my experience into looking for scholarships is also there.
I mean, if you guys don't use this, you would be missing out on something really, really valuable. So please check these scholarships. You don't have to even search on this anymore. Just you go and filter there. Um, okay, I'm gonna just keep going on the questions. I see Rucha is saying that I developed a psychological test in my curricular. So going back to the previous question, if you've done something,
Academic tutor.
I would say, Rucha, it's hard to say yes or no here, but if there is something that you spend, say, over 25 hours or 30 hours developing, and if you think that has a correlation with your degree that you're applying to, then definitely it makes sense. Even otherwise, as I said, that write down a list of all your achievements, all your accomplishments over the last 4 years, and think about which are relevant. And first, obviously, include those. And even those that are not relevant, make a list of which you spent more time and which you think would impress them as they're reading that. So if this is something that you feel would impress them, and if it is something that you feel like you spent a lot of time doing, then you should add that. Um, really, when people tell you that I will help you write a stellar SOP, the true way to do that is I need to spend at least a few hours with you, understanding your background and reading your SOP and asking you a lot of questions to rewrite your SOP to make it stellar. So I guess what I'm saying is the even if I give you all these tips and advice, the work is on you to sit down and do it at the end of the day. So just know that it's hard for everyone. It, as I said, it took me 7 drafts to get to my final SOP. Vanshika is asking, should you only talk about ambitions? Oh, I'm sorry, I just read that.
So now I think we have a couple of SOPs already there.
Yeah. So Srijit is asking, can we use bold for important phrases in the SOP? Is it okay to give headings for paragraphs? Uh, I have never seen that myself. I don't know, Nikhil. Do you have any input here? I've not seen SOPs with headings and paragraphs.
From my experience, I think I've done predominantly for master's, PhD, and MBA SOPs for a lot of students. Usually, it's very simple Times New Roman or a simple text, and there are simple formats. There's no bold or something that you need to do. But yes, if you're citing something, you might need to give citations at the bottom. but that something is very university specific. Don't give multiple sizes, multiple fonts, multiple styling. Keep it very simple, vanilla, straight flavor, and that would be, because they would spend some time reading it. You don't need to highlight it. If you are probably having a journey flow, maybe a change of paragraph is something that you can look at.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, okay, I see a lot of SOPs right now, so I will pick one for now. But the thing is, again, it's not about which SOP I pick. It's more about what I'm planning to do is we're already almost at time, so I'll just spend about 5 to 10 minutes on this. Let me just pick one of these SOPs. Oh, some people send it to me privately as well. Let me.
Wow.
All right, just give me 1 minute as I go through these SOPs to see which one is a good fit for now. Okay, for now, I am picking the SOP by someone named Kagwa Andrew. Uh, Let me share my screen.
Okay, so this is one of our international students. Let's see.
Oh, international as in which country is that?
Uganda.
Oh, okay. Great. So, thank you so much, Kagwa, for sharing this. I will go through. So, I have a checklist written down on my screen here, on my other screen that you're not seeing, where I'm going to be evaluating this SOP for a few questions. As I read through this, I'm going to be asking myself if this SOP satisfies the following questions, and I will talk through it as much as possible. And as I'm reading, you can also read this along with me. And once again, I really appreciate Kagwa sharing this SOP because I know it's a very personal document. So thank you so much. All right. Um, oh, okay. So, Nikhil, I'm thinking of reading after every passage. I will just think through outside what's going on
Sure,
in my, and
sure.
then at the end, I'll go through the review checklist that I have here.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, I think it's a good exercise for everyone to read the SOP.
Yeah. Yeah, you all should also read this. All right, let's begin. Um, I will say that as I was reading this, the first sentence is definitely it's catchy enough for me to keep reading on because most people begin with a quote and you did not do that, and I like that. You began with talking about your upbringing and how you were born and brought up in amongst farmers in Uganda. Um, but I will say that you see how this first sentence is 4 sentences long. That is quite long for a single sentence, and I say this because we don't have, as humans, our attention span is pretty low. So since this is going on for 4 sentences, I'm losing my train of thought as I'm going from one to the next to the next. My recommendation is try to split this into 2 sentences and talk about as a child born, I never questioned the importance of integration of states, free mobility of people, and stop it here. And then next talk about the policies that created the market and so on. That's the first thing I would say. Right. So this might not be uh, very important, Kagwa, because they know that you're from a specific bachelor's university, um, and they know what degree you've earned. And I actually did mention my bachelor's university name as well as the degree I pursued. But in hindsight, I feel like this is something that they already know about you. So you can use the real estate in your SOP, talk more about other things that they might not already know about you. Um, do you have any comments there, Nikhil?
Yeah, I think it's very subjective, but yes, you can definitely work upon, more other aspects rather than going through the same resume elements in your SOP.
Right. Okay. Uh, okay. So this seems like a pretty big paragraph. Let me just take like 2 minutes to read this. Okay. Um, so in this paragraph, what I really liked was you have given a lot of reasons why you picked Stanford, and why you picked this program. I'm not sure what MIP means. I would think it's information policy. I have no idea. Since you spoke about cyber security and cyber attacks, I'm thinking it's more so on the policy side. Um, but it would help if you expand what MIP is. And I know they know what it means, except in this case, I don't know what it means. But otherwise, what I really liked was you gave, three very catchy reasons as to why you picked Stanford and why you picked this program to apply to. Specifically, the second reason that you gave was really compelling. It seems like you've done your research on who graduated from Stanford before, and how they're related to this program and so on. So that's all really great. In terms of improvements, one thing that they look for in your SOP, which I feel like I should have talked more before, is they look for your writing skill as well. They also see how well you carry your English and your diction, and how many mistakes you make or grammatical mistakes. Because unfortunately, if you make even one mistake among an otherwise perfect SOP, it stands out very starkly because it's just one mistake. And so, as much as possible, you have to avoid grammatical errors, sorry, ungrammatical sentences completely. Um, because as a researcher, you would be writing a lot more papers and thesis and journals. And so they are testing you for your writing ability. And I feel like in this case, since I'm also a writer myself, I tend to spot these things, and it's annoying really, but I tend to spot these things pretty quickly. So I feel like you should sit with someone um, who has written a lot before, and ask them to spot these issues. And honestly, you don't even need a person. You can use a software like Grammarly, and I keep telling everyone that it's a free software. All you have to do is copy and paste your SOP in there, and it'll tell you all the mistakes. And if you want, you can pay more to for it to spot even the more advanced errors. But they spot errors even on the free version. So use something like Grammarly to spot these mistakes, And once you correct them, then you go to a person and you show it to them and ask them to correct these errors. Um, that's what I thought from this one, this paragraph.
I think, yes, you're right. You mentioned the sentences are too long for anyone to, get hold of. The reasons are very compelling, and definitely I see there's a thorough research that the person has done. But I somewhere believe if there is a issue of word limit, that would be really a challenging task to, keep all of these information. You need to prioritize what would make more sense if I had to pick one or two reasons, and then rest other reasons can be discussed later on if they need an interview or something. So yeah, the whole paragraph is really good, but it's too good to hold up in the entire SOP, because then you kind of not able to reflect why you would be fitting in and what more you want to come out with this program with. It's more giving reasons to get in. So the next paragraphs would probably may not be able to fit into the entire document.
Yeah. Um, and I actually think at this point it would help to switch to another SOP just to get a diverse opinion. So let me stop sharing and just see if there's anything else, any other SOPs that I can look at as well. Has anyone else sent it? Purnima sent a draft of her SOP. Let me open this. Okay, so Purnima, I need access to this. So I am clicking on request access, but you'd have to give me access for me to open that.
So there's one question. It's not directly related to SOP. I think it's more related to LOR. Okay, there's one interesting question about PhD applications. Harsh has asked, can I switch profile for PhD applications? I'm doing my master's in biotech and want to switch to electrical engineering. I've done prior internships in this domain. The reason being that my area of interest is biotech and electronics, like probably bionics or something.
And one is special electrical engineering. I've been prior internship in this domain. The reason being that, so if the question is, can I do that? The answer is 100% yes. So I guess your real question should be, how can you position yourself in a way that it's convincing for them to pick you despite you coming from a different domain and background. And that's why I said that, in my case, I stressed on the fact that I was the founder of the social organization in my undergrad, that I worked in leadership positions at two other organizations, and I worked under a professor on a management oriented project. So I kept talking about the experiences that I had from doing all this and less about the research that I conducted on chemical engineering directly. So it's really just about, you get to tell your story, no one else. So you can position it any way you want. You can take the experiences you've had so far, pick the ones that seem relevant, and then craft a specific story out of them. So if the question is just can you do that, then the answer is 100% yes. I feel like we're slightly running out of time. So
Yeah, I think we'll just take one last question. Probably someone has written down their profile. This is related to LOR. I'm not sure if this fits in our domain, but let's try and see if this last question makes sense.
I, yeah, actually, I just wanted to run through this since we don't. I guess I underestimated the time it takes to really read and review an full SOP. But this is a checklist of questions I had written down on my side before this call. So when I'm reading an SOP, these are the questions that I'm trying to answer. First is, does the beginning of the SOP have a hook? And when I say a hook, think of it as a metaphorical hook that pulls in the person who's reading it to keep reading on to the next paragraph, to the next paragraph, to the next. So the beginning of your SOP absolutely should be something that has a hook to it. So generally, I feel like beginning with a question is a good idea. Beginning with a childhood experience is a good idea, like what Kagwa did, and beginning with a quote is also fine, but I would say try to stay away from that, because too many students have used it in the past, including myself. Second is there a story? Is this student who is writing this SOPs, are they trying to tell me a story that I can understand? Um, Definitely, is the student answering the five key questions that I told about in this seminar? Are there any grammatical or ungrammatical sentences? Are there any typos? Definitely, please avoid typos. Is each paragraph leading to the next paragraph coherently? Because you cannot talk about the research you did in undergrad in your second year and then switch to something you did in your fourth year with no connection between that. You have to understand that the people who are reading this, they are spending maybe about 5 minutes on reading this. So if they feel like there is just no correlation, it'll frustrate them so much that they might be biased into not picking you just because of that. So make sure that it flows like water from one passage to the next. Is it specific and not cliched? And what I mean by that is students tend to use the same SOP for multiple universities without changing anything except for the university name. So make sure that what you're writing to them, at least when you're talking about why you picked that university and major, it has to be specific enough. Like the SOP that we just saw, that was extremely specific to Stanford. So make sure that it's reflective of that. And is the language formal but also brings out the student's character? So think I read this. In fact, one of the SOPs that you get as example when you purchase admitted is this SOP of someone who applied for a PhD. And when I read this person's SOP, I almost felt like I knew that person because they put so much of themselves and their character and their quirkiness in there while making it sound very formal that it's a feeling that you get, I guess, after you read something like that. So ask your friend if they're able to see your character jump out from your SOP. And finally, the question is, did the candidate convince me enough to pick them? So this is what's going on in the other person's head, or at least in my head when I'm reading someone's SOP and evaluating him. So take note of these questions. Ask someone in one of your friends to see if you answer these questions as they read your SOP. Make them sit next to you, ask them to read your SOP, and keep asking them what's going on in their head as they're reading it. It would be really helpful for you. All right, I'm gonna stop there.
Okay. So I think this was really engaging session. I haven't seen any kind of drop in the number of participants. So I'm sure all of the participants have enjoyed the session. And if you're enjoying the session, please, this is the time to turn on your videos and show your faces and show your love in the chat section. We have also shared feedback for this webinar. Again, feedbacks makes us better every day, and we would love your feedbacks for this session as a giveaway, and this is something never planned again, just because the session was really good. All the participants were giving feedbacks. One or two of them would get a free book of the admitted from Foreign Admits site, and that's something I would definitely want all of you to enjoy the book. And if you still want the SOP chapter, I'll just reshare the link which was shared earlier, so that you can still get an access to the SOP chapter from our site. We have already created a page specifically for Soundarya to have a presence on our website, and all of you can get the free SOP chapter there. So submit your feedbacks for the session. We'll email you a feedback email also. We appreciate all the feedbacks, and let's see how we can add more value to your journey. Thank you, Soundarya. It was really an amazing session, and we loved what you have guided. I was already taking notes of a lot of things which you have said. Probably gonna help a lot of students. And if you really like the session, probably the next thing that you can do is use LinkedIn and share about your experiences, share about the notes that you might have done. Tag both of us. Probably we can share our LinkedIn with you guys so that you can
Yeah.
easily tag
Uh,
us.
at the very least, feel free to send me a request on LinkedIn. My full name is Soundarya Balasubramani, and just message me. add a message there saying that you attend this session. So I know that you were in there. And as Nikhil said, go and write something on LinkedIn, because really we need help from people like you to keep doing what we're doing and help more students. And I'm very thankful that you spent almost 1 hour and 20 minutes with me on a Sunday morning. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was a great session. Have a great Sunday.
Thanks so much.